"Oh hey, why don't you join me for some tea? Come sit with me." I'm actually reading a book titled Be Prepared by Vera Brosgol, and it taught me a lot on how socialization contributed to motivation. Let's talk about that, shall we? But before that, let's clarify some terms. So, what is socialization? Well, according to Merriam-Webster, socialization is the act of interacting in a social environment. Us humans are social species. We have to talk to other humans. We have to socialize in order to live. Like you hear outside of my house, there's a lot of kids playing outside together, socializing, playing soccer, probably. That's an example of socialization. Why socialization is so important to us is that socialization shapes our beliefs, our religion, and our way of thinking. Through talking to people, it expands our view of life and expands our knowledge as well. Thus, that's why socialization is important to us. So, another thing we'll be discussing is attitude. What is attitude? Now, attitude is the way you act towards something. It doesn't always mean how you act, but it also means the way you feel towards something. Now, my attitude towards Ginger is positive because I love Ginger. He's cute. Ain't that right, Ginger? And another thing we'll be discussing would be hardship. Now, what is hardship, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked because hardship means the difficulties we'll have in life. Now, for example, if someone were to push me right now, I'd fall, right? Now, we'll be discussing how I should react to this. Should I just cry here like a little baby? It hurts. Or will I stand back up and prove to the world that I can come back, stronger even? Now that those three terms have been classified, let's instantly go into the summary of this novel. Be Prepared. Be Prepared follows a younger version of the author, Vera Brosgol. She was the only Russian girl in her school, and so it was hard for her to fit in. She couldn't really make any friends due to being an outcast and lack of a father figure. And so she decided to join an all-Russian camp. Since she's Russian, she might be able to fit in, right? Well, you're wrong. Because since she doesn't know how to make friends with American people, she still can't make friends with Russian people because they're both people. She gets into the camp and she was greeted by two of her campmates, the Sashas. Now the Sashas are known to be the rude ones. They are not really welcoming of Vera's presence into their tent. And so sometimes Vera just gets ignored or occasionally bullied. Like this one time where Vera wanted to do something for the Sashas, right? So Vera drew their crush. Now, the Sashas, they instantly thought that Vera was the one who had a crush on this boy. And so she was bullied. The rumor spread like wildfire and, things weren't looking good for her. Now, bullied for a crush you're having is bad enough. Bullied for a crush that you don't even have, that's even worse. Props to her for not crying the whole entire camp, because if I were her, I would just be crying in the corner. This camp sucks. But that all changes until she met Kira. So, who is Kira, you might be asking? This little lad right here. Kira was 8.5. She was going to be a vet when she grew up. Maybe it was because I was older or because I'd found Malchik. Malchik was her lost hamster, by the way. But I think she kind of looked up to me, and I kind of looked up to her as well. Maybe it was uncool to hang out with a little kid, but I thought she was awesome. And so her attitude towards the camp changed. She went from absolutely hating the camp to loving every single second of it with Kira. Kira had the same hobbies with Vera. They both liked drawing, they both liked animals, and they just couldn't be separated. They were having loads of fun. And so that's basically the overview of this novel. Vera gets into a camp. Camp sucked because she was bullied and she didn't have friends. She met someone of the same interests and they both had fun. And that's how I concluded that socialization contributes to motivation. So, let's now talk about the research problems. First is what socialization has done to the main character. Now, like I've said, Vera was a quiet person. She just didn't have friends. She had trouble fitting in until she met Kira. Now, with the help of Kira, it really opened her eyes on socialization and made her want to socialize with many more people. Kira introduced her to many other friends and they all had more fun. Because of Kira, Vera wanted to socialize with more people and she became more of an outgoing person, which led her to become the person she is today, a successful author. Now let's talk about the main character's attitude towards the camp at the start versus at the end of the novel. Now, at the start, she didn't like the camp at all. The camp was gross, she said. There was no candy, no running water, and it's just a pain to stay in. But because of Kira really made her look at the good side of camp, making her really appreciate the camp's inner beauty. With socialization, with having friends, any place that isn't really seen as particularly good can be seen as great with a couple friends. Her attitude went from a negative attitude to positive attitude towards the camp because of having friends. So friends are really beneficial in turning over the mood. And the last research problem we'll discuss is the struggles the main character had to cope with. Now there are three main problems that we'll discuss. First one being adapting to a new setting. Vera found it hard to adapt to a new setting because she'd never really been away from home. Unless if it was at her friend's house, which is basically close to her house. She couldn't really manage with the bugs, the lack of indoor plumbing, and the diverse cultural state of the camp. Here you can see that she's not really into the toilets of the camp. And the next one is fitting in. Since Vera is a Russian-American descent, she found it kinda hard to manage in an all-Russian camp. Even though she's Russian, she's only ever lived in America, which really puts her off sometimes. She couldn't really belong, she felt. I haven't made any friends yet, but hopefully I will soon. Please come visit. She was very sad. And last but not least, cultural differences. Since for the same reasons, she was only living in America, she found it a little bit hard to reconnect with her Russian heritage because she had only lived in America. She found it hard at first, but finally she understood them and reconnected with them by the means of Kira. Now, despite the challenges she had to face in the camp, she learns through her experience many valuable lessons about herself and her place in the world, thus maturing in the process. And next, we'll discuss the conclusions of this book. To summarize, the evidence makes it apparent that socialization really does contribute to motivation. You can see in this book that Vera had a hard time seeing the good sides to the camp because she had no friends and she couldn't really connect with anyone there. But after meeting Kira, she could really connect and understand the values of life, the good things in camp. It really can play a huge role in someone's attitude towards something. As she spends more time with Kira, the good times show and the bad times are not as bad as if it were faced alone. With a friend to spend time with, Vera finally enjoys going to camp. Now, as for the suggestions, I think that this book is absolutely perfect. It was really fun to read. It made me finish the whole book in one sitting. This whole thick illustration novel was done really well. All the art you see in this book was illustrated really, really greatly. It can really convey the feel of a certain scene really well. And it's just overall such an exhilarating read, which I would really recommend to everyone from the age range, no matter if you're young or old. The only gripe I have about this novel is that it's a little bit short, because this book has a lot of characters and it could really be more fleshed out. This book doesn't really explain how Vera acts outside of the camp after she goes out. The book sort of ends when Vera goes out to her car and her mom drives her back home. I think this book would really do well with a sequel. And so this brings us to the end of my research video. I thank you all so much for watching up until this point. I really appreciate you guys, and this definitely took some time, but I finally finished the video. It took a while, but I did it. Now, I'm sorry if this video isn't really as formal as you might think, because I'm trying to appeal to everyone. I want to make this video fun to watch outside of the school range. Well, that's all from me. I bid you farewell. Bye guys.